and Noor, Michelle, Jennifer, Sven, Susan Wilson. Hopefully you enjoyed the one and only Kyle T. Webster, who was just up. Yeah, they don't get much better than that guy. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Volume's coming in all good and all that good stuff, all right? Fantastic. So let me know if you can't hear me. I'll be even better. All right. And again, welcome to today's Daily Creative Challenge. We're going to tackle shapes and text, which seems really innocent. You're like, oh, shapes and text, no problem. Oh, it gets a little complex, right? Because there's multiple ways to, create shapes, and I want you to do it the most flexible way as possible. Thank you, Murray, for the confirmation there on audio. So let's just jump over and get this party started. Hopefully this day finds you well. How you doing? I'm doing pretty good. I get to see my mom today, so that's, I guess, big news. See how she's doing. All right, so you can see right in here, Daily Creative Challenge, basically the page. And there we go. Boom, I'll just paste it right over there for everybody who's just joining me. So as I scroll down, you can see we did photo and illustration, shapes, and text. We're actually going to add to what we kind of previously built upon. So we're going to add some effects and things like that to this as well. We're going to blend together shapes and text using masks, blur filters, distortion tools. But also we're going to understand how shapes works, how text works differently from, say, a regular pixel layer. So we've been using pixel-based layers. That's what I call these. Anything that's a photo is a pixel-based layer, but just go click on that link and then go ahead and download that file. And sure enough, you could also do that right out here, shapes and text in Discord if you're joining me there. That's actually how you kind of get the file faster, I feel. But I could be wrong. All right, here it is. All right. Cindy, I don't know how many kilometers that is, but that seems like a lot of kilometers away that your mom is. Oh, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. All right, so here's just, again, this is just a fun background to play with, right? We get to kind of mess with this, but most importantly, we can kind of review sort of creating shapes and text, right? You might look over here and you'll see your selection tools, right? So you have sort of an elliptical marquee tool. I'll create a new layer, and some people will do this, is they'll create a circle, fill it with a foreground color, and now this is a pixel-based layer. So if you scale this up, you're going to see some of those pixels break down, right? So it gets very fuzzy, right? So that's something that we maybe we don't necessarily want. We actually want to come down here and use these various shapes. We've actually updated these as well, so they have even more control after the creation of the object. So ellipse tool, click right there. We'll go in here, we'll click, we'll drag out like so, and there we get that. It should pop up your properties panel. In here, again, we want to make it a white fill. There we are. Maybe no stroke. There we are. And sure enough, we can scale this infinitely because this is a vector shape, right? You guys hopefully get the idea. It's going to be nice and clean. All that good stuff. Vector is good. All right. Sam Peterson is here. You could snap this into place. I'm just going to center it, by the way, kind of like so. And then we could do some fun things with this. We'll do a couple fun things. I think this is going to be a blast, by the way. I'm kind of referring to minimalist design is what I want to do. So, in fact, if I could just show you some quick examples, let's jump out here to streaming projects. Maybe I have something called minimalist. Maybe I don't. That's okay. It's probably under compositing. Minimal. Kind of stuff like this, right? So this is kind of minimalist. This is, that's pretty similar. This is also minimalist. So this is sort of an advanced version of what you can do all in good old Photoshop. I just animated some photos, right? But that's what I'm referring to when I say, oh, it looks like I did that in After Effects, but you could also do that in Photoshop. All right, so right in here, what I think would be really cool is to take this landscape, duplicate it, so Command J, put it on top, okay, and then clip it. Bam, clipping mask. Right now it's being eclipsed to that ellipse, right? It kind of disappeared, but it's really there. So we can offset it. In fact, what I like to do, Command T will give you transform, Control T on PC. That's going to give you the control handles, but then I just right click, and now we have easy access to, say, horizontal, which is not what I want to do. I want to do vertical. We could flip it vertically, right? So now we have this sort of look that we can do. Bruce Gonzalez, maybe I will do the letter B. But this sort of like minimalist sort of look that we can add to this. Right? This is like a minimalist design. Right? Remember, this is still this vector shape on underneath, right? So again, if we just add, I'll throw yellow just so you could see it, but we could still add a stroke to that and it will come through, okay? Another way to do this, in fact, let's just turn this off. That's why I'm glad you guys are joining me today, because right over here, look, I could double click. You probably know about this. It's like, here's one way to add a stroke, but if you double click on the layer, you'll go into layer style. You're like, wait, there is a stroke right in here as well, right? So there's two different ways to add strokes. I guess just be aware of which one you're doing, right? Technically, this one could be on the inside or outside or center. You have some control, but you still have a lot of control in here for this vector shape. As I add this stroke, right, there's that lovely stroke. As we take a look right in here, we can say, hey, you know what? We have additional properties. There's actually more we can do. We can take this to a dashed line, to a dotted line, like so. We can increase that gap by, say, 50 if we want to, and make this line even thicker, right? And now we have those big circles. Hopefully you can see that spreading around let's do 20, around the circle, right? So this level of control you actually don't have when you go to your layer styles, okay? Because this is new. Yes, Luzette, it will save here so you can try it later. Yes, yeah, you need to. It won't save right here. What you can do is you can go ahead and click on the title in the video, and then it'll take you to the YouTube page where you can maybe bookmark it there. Okay, so we did that. That looks pretty cool. We could get a little bit more advanced. In fact, I want to show some of these additional tools. There's triangle, there's polygon. Let's go into the polygon right in here, because the polygon even has more controls as we click and drag out. Here's our polygon. Let's make this line extra thick so we can all see it. Okay, so here's our lovely polygon. Obviously right here, we could still change that to a dotted line, whatever we want to do. But I wanted to get into some of these additional properties, because right over here you can see you can change the sides. Okay, can you see that right over here? We can change the sides up to, I guess, 100, which pretty much makes it a circle. But we could take it down, as you can see, into a triangle if we want to. So again, I can make it an octagon. There we are. Right, now I can even get even more clever with this. Right? Because I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Actually, let's take this down to like, let's actually just take this down to 5 so we can see this a little better. We can round the corners, so we can drop in, or actually we don't even need to drop in. Anywhere there's a numerical field, we can scrub on the icon next to it. And that's what I like to do, is I like to scrub and change visually. You can see I've made this and curved the corners. This was so difficult before this latest version in 2021 this year. I'm not 100% sure when we introduced it, because all the days start to run together. Welcome to 2020 and 2021. But there we have that. That's one polygon. I'll just kind of save that one for later. I'll take that back down to 0. So we could also do this, coming in here. Oh, what is this? We could change this from a sort of a polygon to a star, right? So again, scrubbing down, bam, there we have our star, right? PS catches up with AI. You are exactly right, Carol, because what would we do? We would open up Illustrator. A year ago, that's what I'd have to show you how to do. Open up an Illustrator, copy and paste into Photoshop, which, again, you can still do. So this makes things interesting because now I can say, hey, you know what? Let's make this a cool badge. Let's take this up to 20, right? Let's increase the size. Zoop. Right? Let's make this even more drastic of a polygon, which polygon turned into a star. Now it's a starburst. Yeah, how are we already 3 months into 2021? How is it? It's like April. We're almost into May here in the US. Make sure you get your taxes done. I think that deadline was extended. I don't know. Again, I'm all screwed up. It's April 15th, and I think our deadline for taxes was changed. All right, so I can kind of put that behind it if we want to. Right now we have a lovely burst. We could take these shapes and scale them down, right? And now we just have a cool a burst that I can play with that's kind of hovering over the water. Okay. Heck yeah, you could put a skull in all of this. And thank you so much for mentioning that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I knew you were joking, RB, and I love it. Because you're like, hey, yeah, let's put in a skull. Or something else. Custom shape tool. Okay, so before I go there, I do want to open up the shapes panel. So you can go to Windows, Shapes, and you have access to all these lovely shapes right over here, right? They're going to be the same shapes that you get from your custom shape tool. Right over here, as we click, we can see that these are the same shapes, okay? You have a little bit more control over here in your shapes panel to like kind of reorganize and delete and all that fun stuff. So honestly, kind of use whichever one you want. In fact, we can actually kind of figure out what the difference is. What shall we put in here, huh? I want to put something cool, like a skull. Maybe a snake. A butterfly. There's a butterfly. Maybe it means something. Oh, wait. I accidentally selected a tree. Let's get rid of that. Ah, that's what I did. I made the mistake of doing a click and drag. I'm so glad. I was like, I bet you I'm going to learn something right now. Okay. I'm looking. All right, so let's take this bee. Here's my bee. My intention was to drag it in, but what you have to do is you have to select the bee, and maybe you're Scorpio. Like maybe we're doing star signs. Selecting that scorpion, and then you have to draw it out, like so. And now we get, of course, our scorpion. If we take a look, we can see the size of that stroke that we want to take down. Notice how it has all these sharp edges, right? I get it. Scorpions are kind of sharp, and their little claws they'll get you. So will their stinger. But what I want to do is soften the edges. So we can round the corners, and we can round the corners and round the ends. So that's what I did. I made it less spiky by rounding the ends like so. Okay, that's all I'm doing. How's everybody doing this fine? What is it, Tuesday? There we go. Scorpio, done. Okay, maybe I'll make this 8. That did look like a Wanaka tree. I don't know what that is. Paco Siller with dropping some knowledge. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I want to learn at the same time. For these trees, if we take a look, it will tell you on rollover. So you are kind of able to tell cedar, on down the line. Okay, so there that is. Now compare that to how the shapes panel works. So again, we use the custom shape tool. We could also go over here and just drop in a shape, which is what I'm going to do right now. Let's turn off that scorpion. Let's drop in a lovely leaf. Okay, there it is. As we drop it in, you can see how that works the same way. Keeps most of my settings, but actually does not round the corners and the ends, which I was hoping it would do. Right, so now we know how to work with shapes. Okay. Oh, you're saying this area. Oh, that looks, oh, I'm learning stuff. Paco knows this. He sees these awesome pictures. He's like, yeah, I know where that was taken. So interesting. All right, good stuff. Coffee break. All right. Okay, so we're not done yet, though. So let's do this really fast. Let's jump out. Let's just make a new layer. Let's take a couple of shapes. And again, this is going to be a quick example because I think this is pretty important. I have a shape. Here's a circle. And I've had people make this mistake before. You're like, okay, I want to draw another circle that's going to be down like to the side. Okay. Well, typically if I draw on here, it's going to create a new ellipse, right? So now we have these two circles. That's exactly what I want, right? Let's delete that one. Let's do this one more time. Because as we go up here, we have additional options. So we could say, hey, it's making a new layer. What we can do is we can combine shapes or subtract the front shape. In fact, that's what we'll do. We'll do a subtract front shape, draw out. Let's do a little bit better job, Paul, because I want a cooler moon than that. Something like that. You could see it subtracted the front shape. I only caution you when you do this is that it actually defaults to your last setting. So just keep in mind if you do change this. Intersect, exclude, merge shape components. Hopefully you understand all this stuff, everything. Yeah, so that's what all this stuff does. So keep that in mind. Now as we take a look over here, oh, ellipse, there it is. I just made this cool shape. Also what I can do with this cool shape, let's go to swatches panel. Sorry, shapes panel. Let's see if I can do this actually. New. There we go. There we are. There we go. Okay, so now that I have it created, we know how to create shapes. I select it. That's a key component because I'll go down here. It's like, hey, I'm used to Illustrator. Use path selection tool or direct selection tool. You just need to make sure that these are usually blue. So it's like, hey, I'm highlighted. Now I can go to edit. We can define this as a custom shape. Bam. And there we are. You know, whatever, crescent moon. There we are. Our crescent moon, sure enough, appears down at the bottom of this panel, even though I'm scrolling away from it. There it is. So that's how you get assets in here, how you get shapes in your shapes panel to use whenever you want. The cool thing about this, I only have to do this once. So I encourage you, like, you know, we have, you still have libraries to store things in, which is what I use now. But I used to use this shapes panel all the time to store stuff. So you can have a logo, so any sort of some branding elements, as long as they're like one solid color, store them here. Keep in mind that since you're doing this, we now are syncing settings. So preset syncing, turn that on and it will sync. You only have to create these shapes once, thank goodness. And now we can move on. All right. This is not a plugin in the new. I don't know if you're talking to me, Cooley, because I know there's lots of conversations going on. But yeah, this is in the latest Photoshop. Here's another thing actually we added, by the way, because I completely spaced this out till just now. Let's go to triangle tool. Let's try this. Whether it's the triangle tool, polygon tool, guess what? We have these little controls a la Illustrator, a la XD. Now we can kind of say, hey, you know, let's round those corners like so. Rounding corners directly on the object is what you can do. And I'm just checking out, see if we can do anything else. All right, so there's that on object controls for some things. Okay, where's our lovely ellipse? Let's call this moon. Right, there we go. Again, we can put that in the sky, whatever we want to do. I want to do something kind of cool. Can you bring shapes in from Adobe Capture? Yes, you can. When you bring shapes in from Adobe Capture, they come in from your into your libraries panel. Let's see if I have shapes, but it will be a vector, maybe. It will come in as a shapes category in your libraries. The same way I've captured these patterns, my shapes will come in that same way. Okay. All right, fantastic. We have that done. I wanted to do like a cool shape in the sky. I wanted to do something cool. I wanted to try to create something cool, guys. So let's do that. Maybe what we'll do is we'll throw a gradient in here, by the way. Adding the gradient, and I think that's fascinating. Let's go back into properties. There we are. Adding that gradient. Again, right this way, adding that gradient like so. We kind of want this hovering in the sky. We could do this a couple different ways. I was thinking about having the tree, like having the tree kind of in front of this shape. That might be kind of a cool effect to do, right? I think in this case, I'm just going to have this hover, but more importantly, I'm going to show you how to kind of distort some of these. So I'm going to do a Command J. We're going to jump this. The second one, this is going to be the reflection, right? We're going to go ahead and protect this reflection, soon to be reflection, by converting it to a smart object. Now that it's converted to a smart object, right, I can do a Command T, flip vertical, right? And now it just kind of keeps that gradient. Otherwise, the gradient will not change. We'll put this in the water like so. We'll blur this out. We'll go to Blur Gallery. We do want to do a fill blur, a path blur. So the field blur is going to just, of course, blur it out. I kind of want to match this tree here. So not only will I blur it, actually this is what I maybe blur it a little bit that way. I would do tilt shift blur. So this says, hey, you know what? It's going to be sharp right here. And let me turn off field blur, actually. It's going to be sharp right here and blur out more down that way. So let's just kind of split it like so. Bring this line in. Crank this up to 11, right? Because it would be like that. It would actually be a little bit more blurry the higher up it is. But I also I thought I'd add a path blur because I feel like this tree is definitely like has this like motion to it, and you could do that with the path blur. So let me turn off tilt shift, and now this is what the path blur gives you, that sort of blurriness, right? Kind of like messing with your eyes, have that blur down. All right, I only have 2 minutes. Banhammer crushed me yesterday, like crushed me. I haven't been crushed that bad in a while. So it's cool that I can use Blur Gallery, add 2 blurs, which is awesome. Click OK. And that's kind of cool, right? We'll actually play with the blend modes. We'll take this down into like overlay because we want some of that water to kind of peek through right down here. It makes it look kind of nice. And again, I guess it's like alien spaceship, like you said. Right, that we're playing with. We would have to play with the distance as well, but you get the idea. I don't know what you think. Yeah. Cool thing is that this is a smart object, so I can always change this later on if I decide I want to add a circle. You know, and about 15 other things since I only have, 1 minute left. In true Paul fashion, I decide I want to throw an ellipse there. Guess what? Ba-bam, da, ba, cha, image, reveal all. Move this down. Save. And it actually added it. I actually added that little ring right there. And that just makes it look a little bit more special, in my opinion. All right. And if I was smart, both of those would be the same smart object since it's a mirrored object. Go ahead and output that and save it to Discord. And I'd love to check it out. And most of all, I'm just thankful for hanging out with you guys on this lovely day. So thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate you, Jennifer, RB, Steve, Peter, Froja, Biola, of course, Paco. Thanks so much, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you.